Tonight's starting goalies are brought to you by your local New England Audi dealers. Experience Audi Quattro all-wheel drive today. Martin Brodeur would like to take an above 500 record in games in Boston with him to the Hall of Fame. He's 10-9-1 lifetime against the Bees. Tuukka Rask against New Jersey. That looks like not quite enough goal support. A sparkling 1.01 goals against average, but just a 3-1-2 lifetime record against the Devils. A .966 save percentage. What Rask is doing right now. I mean, his save percentage through 7 games played is .954. That's more than 19 out of every 20 shots he's faced.
New Jersey saying, so you're telling me there's a chance?
Yeah, Jim Carrey. The game is on. New Jersey really struggling right now, and the Bruins would like to create a little bit more doubt for them.
Well, if you take a look at their personnel, you can't believe they're just a one-win team in 10 tries. They've lost a number of one-goal games, close games. But this is a team that's still trying to figure it out and making up for the loss of a guy that went back to Russia, Kovalchuk.
Patrick Elias and old friend Jaromir Jagr on the wings around Andrei Loktionov, the former LA King. Here's Riley Smith on the off wing. A snapshot well wide on the glove side. Travis Zajac out on the ice. Chara knocks down Elias. A little Slovak on Czech violence there to get things going. Volchenkov pivots out of the corner into Dinas Zubras' skates. Zubras pokes the puck ahead. Damian Brunner on the go, but Dougie Hamilton whacks it away through the corner. Krejci turns it back. Hamilton is paired with Dennis Seidenberg, who takes the puck, and the approach from Zubras. He backed off before finishing his check. Hamilton off the skates is Zajac and down into the New Jersey zone. Erik Gelinas wearing number 22, playing in just his 3rd NHL game. A couple of nights ago, scored a goal. He's a heck of a shooter. Bricky's a former baseball player. His family has had some baseball success. There's Gelinas, number 22. His dad got drafted. His brother made it all the way up to AAA before his career finally topped out.
Yeah, and I believe that goal came on the power play, so it's a guy that you look for tonight that if Jersey does get on the man advantage, expect him to be on one of their 2 units and a guy that's going to look to shoot the puck.
And he says it's somewhere way across the other side of the family tree that Marty Gelinas is one of his relations. But he couldn't really figure it out. He says like a cousin of a cousin of a cousin, but I'm really not sure. But a really nice kid, and he's got a terrific shot. Great release, not only a good slap shot, but that quick release wrist shot. Gregory Campbell's line, Daniel Paille and Sean Thornton, his wings out there for Claude Julien, and Steven Gianta getting thrown out of the draw. Steve Bernier will take it. Ryan Carter is the wing on that line on the other side of Carter. Adam McQuaid, the long pass behind Daniel Paille. Bernier, Campbell greets him with a solid hit into the dasher in front of the New Jersey bench. Tuukka Rask knocks it into the corner. Gianta takes it there, throws it back to the goal. Bernier banks the pass for Andy Green. He risks it through the slot all the way wide. Ryan Carter first on the puck against Torrey through. That's Bernier. Churning goes indirect. Green, the backup one-timer off Carter's boot, and it comes over to Daniel Paille. Sends it around to Adam McQuaid.
They had a nice rotation going, the Devils, and they looked for that high in the slot redirect by Carter, but the drive by Green was at his feet.
McQuaid taps it away from Rostislav Olesh. You may remember him from his days in Florida. Here's Adam Henrique. Puts on the brakes, makes the pivot, risks the puck all the way around. McQuaid gives chase. Kelly tries to cut it off. It ricochets right into the slot. Nobody home except Dennis Seidenberg. McQuaid, the indirect pass. Kelly, one touch for Paille. Gets to the red line, flips the puck off glass. Kelly pursues as the Bruins get fresh legs on the ice. Jordan Caron coming in a hurry. Carl Soderberg also out there. Here's the quick pass from Kelly to Soderberg, but he can't get the shot off. Getting stick check from behind. Michael Ryder wearing number 17 with the dump down the board.
I just made that point about Kovalchuk no longer being in the lineup for New Jersey Devils, but another guy that just came off a 10-game suspension used to be on this team, now plays in Toronto. There was a pretty big part of their identity in the name of Clarkson.
Yeah, here's a deflection and a save by Brodeur. Adam Larson goes hard into the post. And the faceoff will be in the New Jersey zone. And there's that hybrid style of Martin Brodeur coming through.
Yeah, a good net drive by Jordan Caron. Caron gives the Bruins some flexibility. Can play left wing, can play right wing. When he's playing his best hockey, it's this type of hockey. Simple little net drive. And even though I believe it was Larson that redirects this puck on his own net, but it was the net drive by Caron that forced the coverage by Larson in that direction of the puck on Marty Brodeur.
When Brodeur goes down into the butterfly, he is so prepared to spring back, at least onto one leg. It gives him tremendous mobility and has been that trademark of his style. Martianov tries to poke the puck past Chara. It's off Eliash's stick. Marchand into the middle to Smith with speed. Smith takes it to the off wing, taps it into the slot to pass offline. Not far enough for Bergeron to get to it. Too far forward for Marchand. Jaromir Jagr, who's off to a very strong start in terms of point scoring. Along his own blue line, Andy Green. Zajac with the redirection in deep. Boychuk turns the puck back for Krejci. Lucic finds it in his skates. Krejci ahead. Zajac ties him up. Krejci keeps the feet moving. Works down to the hash marks. Here's Lucic. Lucic back to Krejci in the corner. The gaps open up. Hamilton fakes the shot. Switches with Seidenberg. Continues along the line. Works against Bruner. Hamilton down to the corner. As Seidenberg at the blue line. Hamilton wrists it around. Brodeur will move the puck. Krejci takes it away. Krejci stick handles. Finds a little bit of space right in the slot for Iginla. Krejci fishes it out of there, but Marek Zidlitsky chips the puck out.
And that pressure, all a result of the hard work by David Krejci.
Quick re-entry again, look for Lucic. Lucic trying to tap it back, but Zidlitsky ties him up. Zubras bangs the puck off the boards. Torrey Krug wheels it forward. Iginla saucers the pass. Campbell along the boards. Volchenkov makes good body contact, so Larson can take the puck. Bernier, Thornton bumps in, Steven Gianto off, Carter sticking out to center, McQuaid a momentary stumble, Carter turns on the jet, McQuaid whacks it away, Thornton cross ice for Krug. Krug ahead to Campbell past the red line, so there's no icing on the dump in. Brodeur, high off glass, measuring it perfectly. Carter takes the hit from Thornton to move the puck to Bernier. Bernier off Gianta's legs, onside, but Thornton's back on the loose puck. Krug quickly to McQuaid. High cross corner dump, the spinning puck. Thornton goes hard to the corner. Ryder wearing Kovalchuk's old number. Well, they're both good snipers, aren't they? Happy-go-lucky Michael Ryder out to the red line. Tosses the backhand down into the corner. Carl Soderberg back after it. Dennis Seidenberg off the boards. Kelly around. We've hardly had a stoppage here in the first 6 minutes, Brick. Is that something the players like?
No.
Okay.
I mean, you like a lot of action, you like non-stop action, but you also like the periodical whistle to catch your breath. Get sorted out. Now you have a feel for your opponent and the things that you want to do. You have a little conversation on the bench about it. Then you get back into the rhythm.
No shots on goal yet. Kelly down in the corner, kicks to the stick.
It's like the schedule. You don't want to play every game at home.
Green through his own slot. Fane through a traffic jam with New Jersey changing out. This whole game may just take 60 minutes plus the 2 intermissions to play the way they're going. Smith couldn't drag backhand to forehand. Boychuk fires it into the corner. Volchenkov taps to Zidlitsky through Marchand. Gets it ahead to Jagr. Chara steals. High slide. Chara carrying down his off wing. Banks the pass to Boychuk. Cranks it. Saved by Brodeur. The rebound to the corner. Bergeron takes a whack at it. Martianov comes out of the pile with the puck. He's got Jagr bolting up the middle. Jagr closes. The stop by Rask. Jagr with the huge reach trying to work it middle. Chara having his stick held by his former teammate, and he jacks the stick right out of Jagr's hands, and then he goes after the body, and Zubras takes the puck away. Now Chara goes down, tripping over Zubras' stick. Chara is mad as a hornet. Don't poke the bear, Yarrow. 12:19 to go first period. Jaromir Jagr has survived into his 20th season. Will he see the end of this game alive?
No score first period. Zdeno Chara roaming the offensive zone with a steal. Carries his puck deep. Draws two Devils to him. That opens up Boychuk at the point, but getting knocked down on a hard check by Volchenkov as soon as he made that play. So it was an overall physical shift. You can see that little two-hander at the tail end of that body contact by Chara. And then the hit on Jágr after he had knocked Jágr's stick completely out of his hands. And then when he goes to retrieve a loose puck, there's the stick work by Zubras, and he goes to the box.
Chara's out there on the power play. Lucic to take the draw. McGinley, Krug, and Krejci, the other skaters for Claude Julien. He's still looking for his first shot on goal. McGinley to Krug, the wrist shot, scores! Traffic in front with Lucic and Chara getting in the lane, and Torrey Krug gets the Bruins on the board 11 seconds into the power play. The Bruins now 2 for 7 on the year when tied with a power play.
It doesn't make Marty Brodeur unique, but he does give up a number of goals now at this point in his career on shots through traffic. The Bruins well aware of that, and you can see the penalty killers for the Devils trying to get in the shooting lanes, but it's that little lateral movement by Torrey Krug. We talked about the quickness and the mobility of the young defenseman for Boston. On display right there, Krug just changes ever so slightly with a little half step to his right in order to get that puck through to the net with a little bit of traffic. Not sure if that deflected off anybody or if it just sank maybe from 2 feet to a foot off the ice, and it beats Brodeur low glove side.
Torrey Krug now has 3 power play goals on the season. Nobody else on the Bruins has more than 1.
And what do the Bruins have as a group? 5?
Yep. That'd be about 60% of his team's power play goals.
Thank you, Professor.
Yeah. Yeah, my 14-year-old daughter gave up asking me if I could help her with her math homework about a year and a half ago. Said, nope, pass me. Chelina, the dart off Bernier's tape. Krug off the end boards. McQuaid picks up the puck, wrists it off the legs of Chelina. Bounces past Krug. Campbell will regroup. Adam McQuaid up the boards, knocks off Paille's stick. He recovers it, backhands it in deep. Larson, Campbell gives him a bang. Thornton comes in and wreaks a little bit of havoc, slips it through to Campbell. He fires it off the boards. McQuaid along the line. Krug back to McQuaid, throws it into traffic. Chelina with the block, Gianta with the clear. New Jersey will change out. Devils really struggling on the road, 0-5-2 this season. Chris Kelly, center dot. The steal by Henrique. Scott Olish in the middle, but Hamilton takes the puck away. Here's Henrique's quick shot, and Rask makes the save. Lucic given credit for the goal from Krug and Iginla, so I'll take back that 60%.
Well, that still may change. It appears that the shot by Krug is actually going to deflect out high off Adam Henrique first. Now the question is, does Lucic get a piece of it after the deflection by 14 in white? Right now they're giving that goal to Lucic. Only Lucic really knows for sure whether he got a piece of it, because he would feel it hit the shaft of the blade of his stick. So we'll wait and see.
Kelly wins the faceoff against Zajac. Seidenberg all the way to the point, but not out. Zidlinski does a nice job to keep it in. Krejci, Rask taps it forward to Hamilton. Right to Iginla. He makes a pivot around. Volchenkov draws Zidlinski, fires it in front, he scores! David Krejci going to the goal. Jerome Iginla fires a laser in there, and it either deflected off Krejci's skate or a defenseman's skate, but it's 2-0 Boston.
All the highlights we showed you, if you were with us in the open, were highlights of this line scoring goals, and where does it all begin? Back in their own zone. Whether it's Iginla winning a puck battle along the wall, or Milan Lucic with a strong net drive. In this case, Dougie Hamilton taking that little shovel pass from Tuukka Rask, getting that play going up ice, north-south game. And have net drive when you deal with Marty Brodeur. Funny things happen, deflections. We just talked about the Krug goal. I know they gave it to Lucic, but I'm going to say it was Krug's goal. But pucks to the net, through traffic. You see more and more goals against Brodeur like that here in the last 2 years, Jack, and the Bruins have 2 of them already here tonight.
Peter DeBoer trying to calm things down. The Bruins have scored twice in a span of 1 minute and 27 seconds midway through the first period. And they are threatening to blow New Jersey out of the building.
Well, let's get a look at both goals. The first one on the power play by Krug. Watch 14 and wide. That's Adam Henrique. That's going to deflect off his glove, I believe, and change direction ever so slightly. That beats Brodeur glove side. And then Iginla just getting that puck to the goal. And the Bruins with a net drive, but it's the back check of the Devils into that slot area. A redirect off the skates. And in underneath Marty Brodeur, the Bruins with a 2-0 lead.
The Bruins, when leading by 2 or more at any point in the game this season, are 6-0. All-time under Claude Julien. They are 189, 7-15 for a point percentage of .931. In games in which Boston has led this year, the Bruins are 7-0. Jágr off Paille's stick. Elias pokes it ahead to Chara. Chara waits for the change, guns it off Caron's stick. Adam Larsson, diagonal for Ryder. Ryder draws the puck down the boards past Boychuk. Chris Kelly into the corner. Oles shields the puck from Boychuk. Henrique finds a little bit of space on the far wall. Larsson back up, drive saved by Rask. The rebound tumbles out to the dot. Caron is on it, and the penalty coming against Boston for interference. Johnny Boychuk says, "Who, me?" And the ref says, "Yeah, you." Torrey Krug with the first of the night. Jerome Iginla with the second. It's 2-0 Bruins, but they're on the penalty kill.
Interference, Johnny Boychuk working the front of the net. Drive from Austin at the right point, and as the Bruins try to converge to the top of the crease to protect Rask, not allow second or third opportunities, just that little bit of body work away from the puck sends Boychuk to the box.
The goal scorers, according to the official game summary issued electronically by the NHL right now, are Lucic and Krejci. I'm just guessing that by the end of the first intermission, at least one of those is going to change, probably both.
Yeah, we're thinking it's Krug and Iginla.
Well, what do we know? So a power play here for New Jersey. The Devils have power play goals in 4 consecutive games, so this is their hope to get back in it. Elias off a skate and all the way through. Bergeron pokes at the puck and hits Zajac, Chara, and Seidenberg back in the goal. Seidenberg shovels to Chara to make the clear. Patrick Elias with an interesting point today, saying that, you know, sometimes the best way to succeed is not to speed up, but to slow down.
Well, that's what the good players do. They recognize when to slow down, when to go to east-west mode instead of that north-south, and they just try to play a speed game and sometimes get lost on younger players.
Boston goal scored by number 12,
Henrique, saucer pass, the drive, the rebound, the goal! Adam Henrique in the slot, and you can see the beautiful release from Erik Chalina, the point man on the power play, just letting a bomb go, and there's no way Rask could control that rebound.
You would think a shot from about 60 feet with a clear look on a goaltender like Rask would be somewhat, I wouldn't say easy, but generally you're able to control that rebound or direct the rebound more to the corner of the ring. But this is a bomb by Chalina. Rask gets it with that right pad. He got a real good look at it, but he kicks it with that right pad. It goes right out to the high slot, almost for a perfect one-timer for Adam Henrique, who had curled out into that high slot. It's a forehand one-timer back to the stick side. Beautiful goal. Great shot by Chalina, and a beautiful one-time follow-up by Henrique.
You know, not to turn this into the Elias love fest, but reminiscent of some of the cocktail napkin diagrams that we've gotten from you through the years, Brick. He was actually explaining that to Chico Rush this morning, that very sequence. Lucic, the shot, and it angles just past the post on the rebound off Brodeur's pad. But explaining how that man's got to look for the rebound off a quick release shot on the power play. Zubras carrying the puck through the neutral zone, and an interference call. Damian Brunner, not a happy man.
Bruner's the one that get knocked down, but he initiated the contact, or so it appeared, with Dougie Hamilton on this breakup by New Jersey in the neutral zone. See if we can get a look at it. It's not a bad call. If anybody interfered, I'd agree that it's Bruner for New Jersey, but it's one of those plays you probably could have let go with inadvertent contact. You know, Jersey gets down 2-0. Pete DeBoer calls the timeout. They get the power play. They score. Now they feel like they're right back into the hockey game. They use that timeout in order to get in the right frame of mind or a better frame of mind. And now you have a penalty call go against you, and you can understand the frustration and the anger in Pete DeBoer, especially when you only have one victory in 10 tries to start the year.
So the Bruins try to tighten the psychological screws on New Jersey. And if you're with us at the top of the hour, you heard us tell you that the Bruins had gone 4 consecutive games without allowing a first period goal.
Well, the first periods, believe it or not, have been the best for New Jersey.
Krejci's wrist shot with Chara making major traffic with Volchenkov in front of Brodeur. McGinley with Krug sneaking down to the dot. The shot off the side of the goal. A hard cross-ice pass, and Krug got a lot on it. Here's McGinley coming off the half boards. A shot and an elbow saved by Brodeur over the top of the goal. Krug in the half boards, wiggles it through to Chara. To Krejci alone at the top of the umbrella. To Krug down low, and again it's off the apron of the net. McGinley chips to the corner. Green gets there first. Volchenkov on the ricochet. Lucic chips back down to the corner. Green turns away from Chara. McGinley's waiting on the other side of it. Chara stabs at the puck, gets it loose. McGinley hard back to Krejci. A great catch of the puck on the backhand along the line. Krug through the corner. Volchenkov on McGinley far side. McGinley takes the hit. He knew a big one was coming from Volchenkov, but he gets the puck to Chara. Around the rim to Krug. Half boards Lucic. Back to Krug through the screen. Chara knocks it loose in front, and Green makes the clear.
3 real good possession plays by Boston. Strength by McGinley, strength by Chara, and the wisdom to go back to the point. One on one side, hard to create, the other hard wraparound to get it to Krug.
Bergeron to Kelly to Soderberg, looking for Bergeron, but the pass a little too far forward, and Carter drills it the length of the rink. Riley Smith loses an edge. Steven Gianto whips it on Rask, and he makes the save. Bergeron. A little bit of mumbling going on at TD Garden as the Devils have cut the lead in half here in the first period. Bergeron reverses to Soderberg, turns away from Adam Larson, wiggles the puck to Kelly, finds Bergeron available at the dot. Seidenberg along the line to Hamilton. Hamilton back to Seidenberg. He's got Kelly down low, throws it into the pile, hits a leg, comes to the near boards, and Henry clears the center. Hamilton wants a quick re-entry, tumbles it down into Larson's corner. One shot on the power play.
And number 68, Eric Gardner.
Yeah, the one shot was McGinley's that he tried to rip short side, up high over the block, and then Brodeur got a piece. The best opportunity was Krug on the one-timer from side to side that hit the side of the net.
And Bruins had the puck in the attacking zone for 1:26 of the 2 minutes on that power play.
Well, we talked about the possession plays by that first power play unit, and then the use of the man in the middle. The second unit used it with Bergeron for possession.
Campbell. Back to Seidenberg. The traffic in front. Marchand couldn't pivot for the shot, but he protects the puck. Draws 3 doubles, tries to get it through to Campbell, but Ryder was on him. Rask comes way out of his goal. A good read from Gelinas, who intercepts and wrists it around through the corner. Chara to Boychuk. Boychuk bangs it off the boards, and that'll be icing against Boston.
Just want to finish that thought, Jack, and I know it was a while ago, in fact, over 2 minutes, because the Bruins were just on the power play, but the penalty on Bruner, he initiated the contact with Hamilton, and even though he goes down and Hamilton's able to keep his body upright, New Jersey thought, if anything, there might be a penalty on Hamilton, but the replay will show you Bruner initiates the contact. Now, you could have let that play go. And I think that's more what the argument was from New Jersey. So they survived the power play, even though they were in their own zone for much of it.
Jágr maneuvering out near the point, but the Bruins get in the lanes. Mark Fayne all the way around. Andy Green taps the puck back into the zone with teammates inside. So Jágr and Elias have to skate right on past. Chara at the center circle. Hard off the corner boards, and Brodeur can't track it down. Here's Krejci in front for Iginla. A one-timer wide.
Does he know he's supposed to bank that in off somebody?
Krejci, a little maneuvering back to McQuaid. The blast! Lucic on the doorstep, and the puck bounces just past the post. The Bruins getting a lot of good looks. Iginla off Lucic's stick. McQuaid in the slot. That bangs off Zubrus's legs back to the Boston line.
What an opportunity. David Krejci again winning a puck battle. This wasn't even much of a battle. Just stepped inside, made the steal, and delivered a perfect one-timer to Iginla, who just missed stick side.
Here's Eric Gelinas with that great shot on the power play for New Jersey, leading to the goal. Off Kelly's skates, Larson below the dots, has to go across his own zone. Brunner, not much on the pass. Soderberg punishes that and lifts it off the boards. Brodeur, who can function as a third defenseman, he's so good with the stick. Gelinas carefully through the neutral zone, but then gives it away to Seidenberg. 3.5 to go in the opening period. The Bruins got the first two, New Jersey got the next one. There's an offside. Torrey Krug, a couple of really good looks. This one from Iginla, about 4 inches wide. It's 2-1 Bruins.
For the Honda key matchup of the game, and to no surprise, it's Jaromir Jagr's return to Boston. The Devils are Jagr's 7th NHL organization in his 20-year career. Earlier today, Patrice Bergeron complimented Jagr for his veteran work ethic that he brought to the Bruins last season, but also added that Jarome Iginla has brought that same presence to start this year.
Jamie, thank you. Kelly, Caron, Soderberg, Hamilton, and Seidenberg. Steven Gianta wins the draw. His wings are Bernier and Carter. Zidlitsky tries to go indirect. Bernier chips the puck down the wall. Seidenberg around for Hamilton. Volchenkov goes ahead, but Caron gets the puck past. Bernier rotating back. Kelly on his. Caron right across the crease. Soderberg, the indirect pass for Caron does not connect. Soderberg picks up the loose puck. Back to Hamilton. Taps it up the board. Bernier chips off the wall. Bernier tries to trickle it into the Boston zone. Steven Gianta scoots it through the corner. Seidenberg sweeps it around. Caron has some trouble from Fane. Second effort gets it out to center. Kelly and Soderberg with you got it, I'll take it. Well, nobody got it. And Caron ends up flipping it into the zone.
Like the Cardinals on small pop-ups in the infield.
What, they're still playing baseball?
Molina and Wainwright. Who's got it?
Adam Henrique. Andy Green. All the way through. Krug finds Bergeron with a quick up. Bergeron draws Fane wide. Green alone back of his own goal. Gives it away. Smith working against Olesh down in the corner. The pass comes out too hard for Krug, who had vacated the boards. Henrique with a burst of speed. Krug tough with his body position. And McQuaid the next layer. This is icing against New Jersey.
A limited number of Bruins 3-game plans are now available and feature opponents like the LA Kings, Vancouver Canucks, Toronto Maple Leafs, and more. To purchase your 3-game plan, visit bostonbruins.com or call 617-624-2327, option 1.
Jaromir Jagr got an assist along with Gelinas on Henrique's third goal of the season. Now he has 6 assists on the season, has a 4-game assist streak going. And he also has 91 points in 71 career games against the Bruins. Sean Thornton turns at the red line, off the corner boards. Brodeur chips off glass. Thornton knocks the puck down. Elias has Jagr on the far side. Larson, the defenseman, filling in the middle. Thornton knocks down Elias, and there's a pile-up at the boards.
Yeah, that'll be a non-call against Sean Thornton. It was actually a little bear hug. He knew that Elias was in a prone position facing the glass, and he came from an angle in order to just kind of get that bear hug kind of hit to make sure he didn't get a penalty. It's a good non-call.
Yeah, and Thornton in deference to Elias, the respect that he has universally throughout the league. Gave him the old, "You're all right?"
He was almost on his way down as it was.
Yeah. About to enter the final minute of the first period.
1 minute remaining.
Ginlin and Krejci as the Bruins look to go up 2. Here's Lucic, scores! Milan Lucic with a dart into the back of the net. And the David Krejci line remains on fire.
Know your assignment on a face-off. The Bruins work it to perfection. When that puck gets back by the goal line, the inside hash mark, that's Iginla. He fights through his check, he gets to the wall. He knows that the Bruins want to go up the wall in that situation. It's a high percentage play. He gets to the boards. Once again, this line generates a goal at the opposite end of the ice by doing the job in their own zone and then developing speed through center ice. Does anybody have an answer for Milan Lucic when that big freight train gets moving north? I don't think so. Just that strong, off that far post, that drive, head up, pick the spot, over the stick between the pads. Late in the period, goal. New Jersey had seemed to calm things down after falling behind 2-0, get it to 2-1. That's a big goal to give up. That's a team that has a lot of self-doubt right now when you give up goals like that.
7th of the season.
Like Mama said, don't play on the tracks.
Assisted by David Krejci.
Rask makes the stop on Brunner's wrist shot from the boards. That train gets a rolling.
David Krejci wins the draw. Iginla gets to where he's supposed to be, and then Lucic with speed to the outside. Fundamental hockey, but it's a beautiful thing to watch when it's well executed. That line continues to have a hot hand with a pair of goals tonight.
Lucic from Krejci and Iginla. Just wondering, any of you fans hear anybody talk about those 3 guys before the game tonight? Larson's shot into the pile. Chara getting knocked down in front between periods. The guys will break down Chara's dominant first 20 minutes here. Puck trickles out into the neutral zone. Soderberg to Bergeron at the center dot. 15 seconds to go. A ton of time if Adam McQuaid is on the ice. He said he looked at the clock. There's about 7 seconds left. Krejci thought there was about 10 left. Lucic said, go look up at the clock. 0.8 of a second left to win the San Jose game. It wasn't that close this time.
Well, they wanted a better start tonight. This is a fresher team, a more rested team, and a more determined team, and you're playing the Devils, who we just said there is a lot of doubt in their attack, in their game, and how they want to defend. They gave up a couple ugly ones. They gave up a power play goal. Just not strong enough in coverage, and when it's going south, you take advantage of teams like that.
Dale, there are only 4 teams in the NHL that have not surrendered a lead when leading after either the first or second periods, and the Bruins are one of them.
Welcome into the Xfinity HD Zone. It was an earlier game day than usual for Claude Julien and coaches. It was the 3rd annual Boston Bruins Coaches Symposium. The event was emceed by our very own Andy Brickley. Coaches and Cam Neely spoke to over 500 youth hockey coaches from New England and Canada about keeping a key part of the game in youth hockey.
Well, if you have the passion, you're willing to put in the time. I think that's why we use the word passion quite a bit, is when you have passion for something, you enjoy it, you put in the time, and you do the sacrifices that you have to do in order to be successful. And that goes for coaches, right? It's players and it's also coaches. Have to have that passion to want to be somebody that's going to help a kid develop. There's nothing better than for a coach to see a kid move forward and become a real good athlete, and if not, a real good person because of the guidance that you've given him along the way.
Jamie in the Xfinity High Def Zone was brought to you by the Xfinity Triple Play, TV, Internet, and voice. Alongside Andy Brickley with Jamie Erdahl at Ice Level and our NESN production crew, I'm Jack Edwards. Glad you could be with us as they get set to start second period. If you're popping back and forth from the World Series, we will keep you updated on what's going on here as well as what's going on there. Torrey Krug indeed was credited with his 4th goal of the season on the power play, and Jarome Iginla got credit for goal number 2 of this game. Iginla had a 3-point period, and it is the 89th time in his career that he has at least 3 points in a game. First period summary brought to you by your New England Ford dealers. Jerome McGinley, I fully admit I had the man crush on him when he was with Calgary. I couldn't even hate him when he was with Pittsburgh, Brick.
Yeah, but you enjoyed him being shut out in the conference final.
Immensely.
I mean, even a man crush has its limits.
I've moved on to Shea Weber. But I do digress. So it'll be the two mucker lines out there to begin the second period. Steven Gianta with Carter and Bernier against Campbell, Paille, and Thornton. And we're underway in the second. And we know what's on New Jersey's mind. Get the next one. Carter goes flying into McQuaid, and bodies are down on the ice already.
No surprise to see Pete DeBoer start his energy line, if you will, try to get this team a little bit more invested in this hockey game, emotionally and physically.
Thornton whacks the puck loose. Bernier has Gianta middle. He closes the shot. Saved by Rask, but it comes off the shoulder. Gianta had 3 Bruins between himself and Rask. Carter getting worked over on the end boards by Krug. Bernier back to Green. The one-timer tipped as it was going wide of the goal. Ryan Carter getting the deflection. Fein around the boards. Henrique fresh off the bench throws it in front. Bernier mucking for it. Bernier's had a very good first minute of the second period, trying to establish a new tone for New Jersey. Krug settles things down for Boston. Paille short of the red line, and Boston wants a change. Jordan Caron makes a long sprint all the way across the ice, fresh off the bench. Chris Kelly joining him, and it's going to be offside on the delay against New Jersey. The face-off moving out to the center dot. Peter DeBoer is a renowned teacher of the game, an extraordinarily successful junior coach, and had kind of a no-win situation in Florida that was his entry to NHL head coaching. And just as they started to get good, he was out of a job, and Lou Lamoriello snapped him up in a hurry for New Jersey.
Yeah, and all they did was go to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Stanley Cup Finals first year, not a bad run. Not a bad run.
I don't know if that shocked the NHL world, but it sure was a surprise.
Soderberg tries to throw it in front. Henrique blocks it down. Michael Ryder takes the hit, but then throws the puck through the seam. Dougie Hamilton all the way back. It won't be ice. Hamilton and Rask ended up with the assists on Iginla's goal in the first period. So Tuukka Rask's first point of the season. And this is icing against the Bruins.
They're going to have to get a clarification on this icing. You got Soderberg posted up at the offensive blue line. The hard entering pass from Seidenberg to Soderberg. But the defenseman's right there, and he just basically lifts Soderberg's stick. Icing.
Yeah. Close enough to lift the stick, close enough to play the puck, right?
Well, like I said, I'm going to need a clarification.
Kelly pulls the puck wide against Volchenkov, throws it on Brodeur, and he got the rebound, but the Bruins couldn't pounce on it. Now sort of good A-frame from the boards. Chara from Boychuk, juicy rebound off Brodeur, but it comes right to Elias. He flips it to center. New Jersey has not made a whole lot of plays out of its own end of the ice this evening. Marchand taking the cross-ice pass. Volchenkov belts it off the boards, and again, it'll be Boston's puck.
Yeah, that wrist shot from Chara at the point was a result of Soderberg, as you like to call it, that tripod to protect the puck. Shake people off by using the big frame and then make a play to the point. Boychuk found Chara on the opposite side of the ice.
Brunner sweeps the puck forward. Zajac in a lot of traffic. Brunner tumbling off the outside edge, but he gets the puck into the zone. Rask to Seidenberg. He reverses into the skates of Hamilton. Marchand overskates the puck, then recovers it to Seidenberg, who's got space from the red line. Brodeur gloves it down and saucers it out. Hamilton hard off the boards. Green takes it back, gives it right away to Krejci. Krejci hustles over the line. He's got Iginla trailing. Lucic in the middle. Seidenberg's one-timer. Blocker saved by Brodeur, and he aims the rebound to the corner. Lucic absorbing the hit from Gianta. They both go down. Carter taps, but Iginla's right where the puck was coming. Good anticipation by Iginla. Lucic and Green on the end boards. Lucic with a big reach around. He wins the puck. Iginla knocking it down. And again, New Jersey just having a heck of a time getting it out of its own zone. Seidenberg back to the end boards against Bernier, who had that very good first shift of this period. Adam Larson, the backup drive, tipped and a save by Rask. Ryan Carter coming out in the slot for the redirection, but Rask in good position.
Yeah, Carter was there a similar spot on a similar shot in the first period, but the shot from Green, remember, was in his skate.
Here's Campbell down the slot of the backhand. Save for the rebound, save for and a third chance for Iginla, but he couldn't tap it past. Now Rusty Olish on the rush, working McQuaid's side. Rask gloves it, and he'll take the face-off from Boston's end of the ice. The Force trivia question of the day. Who is second behind Jaromir Jagr among active NHL points leader? Visit NESN.com/The Force for the answer and enter to win a $50 gift certificate that can be used at the Force Restaurant and Sports Bar in Boston, Quincy, or Norwell. Bergeron and Henrique on the faceoff. McQuaid into the circle to steer the puck to Krug. The diagonal to Gregory Campbell, who had that good chance early. Brodeur to Zidlitsky. Tavalchenkov D-to-D with Thornton in his face. Out of the zone, Gregory Campbell swings it over to Adam McQuaid. The Bruins going for 6 points in a series of 3 games in 4 nights. And it doesn't matter what the quality of your competition, that is a nice accomplishment that is within reach of Boston.
Yeah, you set goals at the beginning of the year. One obviously is to win your division and give you an opportunity to get a lot of home games in the playoffs. The other is where you divide the season into either 9 or 10 game segments, and we're right about there right now, Jeff.
Yeah, 8-2 would be a pretty good start, considering that the player of the week, Gustafsson, beat them for Detroit, and Jean-Sebastien Giguère was channeling 2003 when Colorado beat the Bruins. The lone losses on the slate so far. Zdeno Chara cross ice, it hops off Riley Smith's stick. Elias carries it into the zone. He's got Jagr ahead, drops it back to Green. Green throws it off Bergeron's stick, and it deflects out of play. Cold Hard Facts brought to you by Frost Rude Coors Light. We're talking about the 10-game segments so far. Pretty good.
Yeah, the 7 wins in the first 9, 14 of a possible 18, scoring 3 goals a game. Gotta love the 1.44 goals allowed, second best in the league. That is the very essence of the very backbone, as we mentioned at the top of the broadcast, of this Bruins club. The penalty killing, again, top 3 in the NHL. I mean, that's impressive stuff. When you're really in the early part of the season with new players trying to be incorporated, young defense, 2 top 6 forwards new to your lineup to try to find the rhythm of your offense, and the Bruins just finding ways to win.
Zubras on the far side. Lucic sweeps in, and the puck bounces off the dasher in the corner. Andy Green nudges it. Seidenberg to the hash marks to Iginla, back to Krejci. Krejci on saucer pass to Seidenberg to Lucic in the slot. Krejci treated the puck as if it was a tumbling muffin. He just dropped it in there, and it sat nice and soft. Amazing how he's able to do that in such tight space. And here he comes again. It's a 3-on-1. Caron and Lucic. Krejci to Lucic to Krejci, and it bounces off his blade. Caron turns away from Fane back in the net. Back to Hamilton, the bomb. That was a laser, and it rides the dasher back to Seidenberg. Soderberg throws it on goal. David Krejci is feeling it big time. No icing here. Seidenberg bangs Bernier. Hamilton up to the red line. Soderberg absorbs the hit from Gianta, comes out of it with the puck. Cross ice. Here's Kelly with a jump in his step behind Jelena. Leaves it at the post. Perron away from Ryan Carter. Great possession for the Bruins here. Krug's wrist shot looking for the tip from Soderberg, and the puck deflects up and out of play. 13-11, second period. David Krejci putting on an exhibition. If only the puck would have sat flat for him.
It's how you play without the puck that ultimately will determine just how good a complete player you can be. David Krejci on this entire shift, making himself available in the offensive zone, did a terrific job defensively. Right here in the offensive zone, saw that Seidenberg was pinching down the wall. He rotates back to cover for him, even though Lucic was headed in that direction already. And then he takes the body to create the turnover in the neutral zone. And then on the counterattack, he allows the net drive just enough by Caron to open up that seam pass to Milan Lucic. Unfortunately for Krejci, the return pass was just on edge and he couldn't finish off a beautiful 3-on-1.
McQuaid standing up against Olesh's progress. Ryder along the wall. Caron into Ryder's skates. Caron goes down with Olesh giving him a push. Ryder whacks it loose, comes toward the front. Good little wiggle and waggle, but he loses possession of the puck. Henrique, a dart. Too hot for Gelinas to handle at the point. Krejci will split the A this year. He'll wear it on the road in the first half of the season and at home in the second half of the season. It's a recognition of the contributions he has made and that he will make, and a recognition of his leadership capabilities for this team, isn't it?
Oh, no doubt about it. And leadership comes in a number of different ways, and the Bruins certainly have a lot of leaders in that room. But you're recognized by the coaching staff and really by your teammates as to the impact you can have in the leadership category. I think it speaks volumes to the character of what you bring the lineup every night.
If just switching over the World Series alongside Andy Brickley with Jamie Erdahl at ice level, I'm Jack Edwards. The Bruins pretty much having their way with New Jersey up 3-1. The Bruins were up 2-0 in the first period on a power play goal by Torrey Krug. And a dart across the front from Jarome Iginla that got deflected in before Adam Henrique scored on a rebound. Boston's going to be shorthanded here with Riley Smith going to the box.
This was just a puck battle. The Bruins go with that bypass where they go D to D and then reverse the puck back past the D pair up to that weak side winger. That's where Riley Smith was, and then he gets into that one-on-one battle with Zidlicki, I believe. And a play that was going to be offside ends up being a penalty on Riley Smith. So this has been the opportunity back in the first period when New Jersey got themselves into the hockey game. Bruins had a 2-0 lead. A power play goal cut that lead. Bruins with a late third goal on Lucic. Net drive to reestablish the 2-goal lead. And here we are. New Jersey looking for a power play goal to stay in this thing.
All right, so keep your eye on number 22 in white. He's at the right point in most of the setups on the power play. Eric Gelinas, this is his third NHL game. He has got a terrific shot, a very good release. Damian Brunner. Oh, Chara goes mashing into the boards. He was teeing up Brunner for a big hit. And he stumbles into the end boards. Brunner sweeps it back. Bernier's shot, stick saved by Rask. Henrique in the corner, chips to Bernier. Chara staples him in, and Boychuk makes the clear. Gelinas hasn't even touched the puck on this power play. Gelinas' shot was just too hot for Tuukka Rask to handle in the first period, and that's what led directly to the big rebound. Johnny Boychuk greets Jaromir Jagr. Chara turns in it and bounces it out to center.
Got just enough on it to get it by Zidlicki at that right point, but it was good stick position and a good stick play by Boychuk that started that turtle.
Bergeron around the boards. Marchand lifts Larson's stick. He goes one-on-one up ice against Zidlicki. Cuts to the middle. Zidlicki pokes it away and then throws Marchand down. They'll go back to the Boston bench as Chris Kelly comes on.
I just didn't have enough at that point in the shift to try and really beat with speed Zidlicki on that one-on-one. Chara earlier on the PK wanted to be as physical, knowing when to go in order to be aggressive and physical. He just kind of locks knees in an awkward position, and even with his strength, because of the leverage of Brunner in this case, he goes into those boards in a very awkward manner for a 6'9", 270-pound guy.
Chara was using weights on the ice this morning after the morning's game. You know, people can say whatever they want about Zdeno Chara and his career. Nobody outworks that guy. And part of what he's enjoyed about this challenge, being positioned in front of the goal on the power play, is that he really has to work at it because it's not a familiar thing for him. And it's a whole new universe of tasks that he has to accomplish. There's Gelinas' drive off Zubris' stick. And it goes to the end board. Gelinas down to the hash marks. Bounces it off the corner wall. Zuber scoots it to Zajac. 10 seconds to go in Smith's penalty. Andy Green along the blue line. Saucers the backhand. Gets it back for the one-timer. Saved by Raskin. Traffic. McQuaid goes down. The puck's underneath. McQuaid trying to knock it out of the crease. You don't want the defenseman to be freezing the puck in the crease because it's a penalty shot, but no. The puck is outside. Bruins exciting rewind coming up in just 30 seconds. Stay with us.
Time now for the Berkshire Bank exciting rewind. David Krejci, Jarome Iginla, Milan Lucic, all with scoring streaks coming in tonight. Jarome Iginla is the focus on the exciting rewind tonight. Lines up on that inside hash mark. He knows what his assignment is. Fight through your check, get to the wall, because if we win this face-off, that's where we're going. We're going hard around on the bypass. Iginla has to be there. He gets there now because everybody does their assignments, and you get the Devils caught looking in offensively. It creates the 3-on-2. David Krejci doing his job. Win the draw. Dennis Seidenberg. Little touch pass. And then the hard wraparound by Dougie Hamilton. This is a set breakout play. These are the things you go over. And everybody has to execute their assignment. Iginla gets to the wall. He's able to handle the wraparound. And now you got 3 Devils caught. The explosion through the neutral zone. And again, David Krejci, the architect of the 3-on-2. Get to the middle of the ice. First job, get close to Iginla. Short support, tight support, short pass. That opens up the wide side. It draws Zidlicki to him. And now Milan Lucic with speed off that far post takes a perfect pass, tape to tape, hard net drive. No answer for that for the New Jersey Devils, and he beats Marty Brodeur between the wickets.
Of course, there's going to be a little hockey tournament in Sochi, Russia in February. How do you think Lucic would fare on the 100-foot wide surface?
I got no problem with him on that surface, to be honest with you, Jack. We have the advantage to be able to see this guy night in and night out when he's moving his feet. There's very few teams that have an answer for that.
Of course, the NHL rink is only 85 feet across. Lucic, the touch pass just ahead of Krejci. It's off Larson's stick. Brodeur's going to have to take the face-off with Krejci coming in.
But look how the Bruins are using Milan Lucic this year. Just think about the power play. They're asking him to make plays off the half wall and the high slot. He's not just a big, menacing, tough body that stands in front of the net. They're using Chara for the net front presence with the Lucic unit. So he's asked to be more motion, more movement, more vision, more playmaking, more shot opportunities. I mean, that's what they think of this guy's skill set. And to think that the big ice surface would hurt him, maybe it would, but I don't think to the degree the people that say, no, he shouldn't even be a candidate to be on that play.
McQuaid, middle of the blue line, moves it to Krug. Krug puts the turn on Carter, who jabs him from behind. Iginla, nice rotation to get the puck to Krejci. Bernier holds, goes through the seam. Steven Gionta behind Iginla, saved by Rask. Tuukka Rask denying Steven Gionta with his save of the game.
Well, kind of a broken play right at the offensive blue line for Boston. And good recognition by Bernier to make a beautiful pass to Gionta, who flies the zone. Gets in behind the Bruin defense. There's a broken play, and now nobody's sure where to be in this situation, and Gionta takes advantage of it. Rask with a positional stop down on that butterfly. Didn't get it clean, and that's why Gionta was looking for a second chance opportunity. But again, Rask with that calm demeanor and the good positioning.
Chara hard for Smith. It deflects all the way into the New Jersey zone. Mark Zidlicki back on it. Bergeron jamming after Riley Smith made the play up the boards. Now Elias in a race with Boychuk, who has the angle. Boychuk turns the net hard. That's an example of using that shallower net. Here's Smith into the slot. Throws it in front. Jágr with the stick played above the shoulder, but Bergeron has the next touch. Throws it right in front of Marchand and Smith. And he chops it off a stick and over the top. I think it was Jágr who got back for the defensive play.
That's exactly who it was. That long reach of Jágr's stick deflected that opportunity. Smith had a lot of net.
Zidlicki with a break. Spins back top of the circle and then rims it around. Martiana plastered by Boychuk, and the puck loose for Chara. Riley Smith has ice. Bergeron and Marchand changing out. Smith dumps it in. Jordan Caron, fresh off the bench, will pressure Ryder, giving Spain a little bit of a push. Now the bouncer out to Henrique. He scoops it over Hamilton's reach and goes to the corner. Hamilton can't get the backhand all the way through. Polish jamming on the end boards, but Caron pries it loose. Seidenberg scoops it up. It bounces at the far end. Now Green working it up. Cardinals have taken a 1-0 lead on the Red Sox. World Series Game 3 as the series shifts to St. Louis. Bruins ice the puck here. Toyota game break with Dale Arnold.
Thank you, Jack. Maple Leafs hosting Pittsburgh. Penguins on the power play. Yevgeny Malkin behind the net. Passes in front to Chris Letang. He shoots and scores. That puts Pittsburgh on top 1-0. Gee, do you think Letang makes Pittsburgh better, Jack?
Well, Pittsburgh Penguins with 14 points atop the Metropolitan Division. Toronto and the Bruins with 14 points apiece, tied at the top of the Atlantic. And already the standings beginning to sort themselves out. Bruins ice the puck once again. The division setups are not totally up to speed. Different this year. 2 8-team divisions in the East, 2 7-team divisions in the West. If you finish in the top 3, you're automatically in the playoffs, and then the next 2 best records in each conference will make the playoffs. If you qualify as a 5th place team, you switch over and play as the 4 seed in the other division.
And do you stay there through the play down through that division?
Yep, you go 1, 4, 2, 3. So you could be in the Atlantic Division and win the Metropolitan Division playoffs. Strange as it may be. But it's going to lead to the renewal of some rivalries and the creation, or some old rivalries, I should say, and the creation of some new ones. Because as people of my vintage can tell you, the reason we hate Montreal, a kick saved by Rask on Brunner's turnaround, is because of the frequent meetings and the frequent beatings in the playoffs.
There's many reasons.
But we only have 2.5 hours tonight, so we'll keep it brief. McQuaid and Carter bumped right in front of the Boston bench. Cardinals go ahead 2-0 in St. Louis, so you might as well keep it here. Krug fires it into the circle. Krejci turns it back for McQuaid. The long diagonal through the seam doesn't connect. Are the Bruins letting off the accelerator a little, or are things just slightly out of sync?
No, it's just kind of things have really mellowed, so to speak. I thought the way New Jersey started with their 4th unit on the ice, the second period might have a little bit more flavor, a little bit more physical flavor to it, but it's gone right back to kind of a game between the blue lines.
Loktionov swirls on the backhand. Carter jams it, and it bounces off a leg and goes past the post. Green slides it over to Zidlitsky. Zidlitsky works all the way through the bottom of the circle. It goes right toward goal, but can't keep the puck. Loktionov off Jágr's skate. Krejci chips off the wall. Loktionov knocks it down. Jágr up ahead to Zidlitsky. Zidlitsky high slide Jágr. The shot goes sliding past the stick side post of Rask. Here's Jágr into the slot, tries to pull the trigger, and it deflects up and out of play. 5:25 to go, second period. The Bruins leading New Jersey 3-1. Michaela Brickley's phone's about to blow up. She's celebrating her birthday tonight with a whole bunch of buddies. Dad, pop for a suite. So I guess you got to keep your job, huh?
Yeah, there's some opportunities, some great deals to be had. That's one of the promos we read.
Well, here's another one. The twisted but true fact of the game. The 1990 entry draft held shortly after you played in the Stanley Cup Final. Jaromir Jágr drafted number 4. Martin Brodeur drafted number 20. Now they're teammates at the tail ends of their careers. By the way, Jágr 18 goals and 55 total points against Brodeur, the most of any NHL player. They're holding spots for both of those guys up in Toronto at the Hockey Hall of Fame. Boychuk wrists it to Bergeron, who absorbs a hard hit from Larson on the end boards. Polish to Ryder. Chara reads it and delays the rush, causing the offside. So here are Twisted boys. Twisted tea, hard iced tea, the refreshing hard iced tea that tastes like real iced tea. Be a little twisted. Amazing to bridge eras as these guys did. And really 3 different styles of play during their careers.
But they're at that point in their careers right now, Jack, where it needs to be a blend of, talented young players where these guys now are more, well, I won't say role players because one's a goaltender, but Marty Brodeur this week talking about Corey Schneider's the man.
Yep.
I'm the backup. The reason I'm playing tonight, lower body injury to Corey Schneider. Otherwise, he'd be playing, especially here in Boston. So, as role players, and Yager's doing his role. He's being productive. He's put some points on the board, but this is a one-win team in 10 starts this year. And these guys just got to be almost complementary players. So it's really the core guys that need to elevate their game if New Jersey's going to be a better team.
Well, as New Jersey struggles to build itself into a contender again, the Bruins looking for an 8-2 start. If you're just hopping over from the World Series, it's 3-1 Boston. The Bruins have outshot New Jersey 19-14. There's Lou Lamoriello, the president and GM, and Hockey Hall of Famer himself. But Boston has jumped out to a 2-0 lead in the first period. And but for a power play goal by New Jersey, it has been all Bruins. The Devils have had a heck of a time getting the puck cleanly out of their own end. And David Krejci has had some magnificent shifts, doing wonderful things with and without the puck. Here's Jágr, who's got a little magic in his own hands. To Ryder. Volchenkov's drive through traffic, and it bangs off the kick plate behind Rack. Johnny Boychuk has a gill on the right side, reverses away from Ryder. D to Chara, up the wall for Lucic. Lucic gives to Krejci, back to Lucic, filling the gap. Has a collision with Bernier, who's had a very good second period. Ryder ahead to Bernier. Chara bangs him hard into the glass, and the glass trembles. Steven Gianta against Johnny Boychuk down in the corner. Chara jamming away again. Bernier tries to turn toward goal. Boychuk keeps him behind the line. Larson's long wrist shot, rebound. Bernier behind Rask, but he couldn't get stick controls. Boychuk was right on him. Looks really easy when you're behind the goalie like that, but Johnny Boychuk is giving him trouble. Here's Krejci breaking the shot, saved by Brodeur. The rebound back off of Krejci and underneath Brodeur.
I think Gianta got the redirect on the shot from the left point after Bernier, who's had a real good second period. Started on the first shift of the period. Here's your redirect. Good positioning by Gianta in front of Chara. Rask had to have a positional stop. But it was Bernier really that made this play go. If he gets a little puck luck, that puck finds his stick and not his skates in behind Rask. But that's a good shift. Bernier got some positioning on Boychuk, used the points, won some battles. And then Gianta, like his brother, not very big, but that low center of gravity, got underneath Chara and had a nice redirect.
Not the size of the dog in the fight, is it? It's the size of the fight and the dog. Campbell to Krug. Krug's wrist shot, blocker stopped by Brodeur. The trademark punch, and he took it all the way out to Olesh, who breaks toward the Boston line. The Bruins standing it up at their blue line. And we saw Johnny Boychuk come down pretty hard on that rebound chance for Bernier. That's a situation where he's willing to take a 2-minute slashing penalty, obviously, because he's in a goal-preventing situation, right?
Yeah, plus you're one of the best penalty-killing teams in the league. You have the confidence in that. And that's like icings, too. If you need an icing, go ahead and ice the puck, because the Bruins are real good in the face-off dot. If you have the believability, you're going to win the draws at the most important time. Don't be afraid to ice it if you're under siege. And in other situations, don't be afraid to take penalties if your penalty killing is that strong.
Bruins won 64% of the face-offs tonight. So. Kind of a prescient statement as they ice the puck right there. And Gregory Campbell will have to take it against Travis Zajac. It's a stalemate, and Rask has to turn the puck away. Brunner spun it on goal. Brunner trickles it in front, too many layers. Campbell seals off the post, and even Paille stumbling gets it to the blue line. Jelena hops ahead, pokes it off the corner boards. Now Rask around for Paille. Backs into Larson. Brunner throws it on Rask. He's got to take another face-off in the Boston zone.
The TD Bank Community Clubhouse and the Boston Bruins would like to welcome the Home for Little Wanderers to tonight's game. At TD Bank, we're committed to supporting the communities we serve by making a difference together.
So Claude Julien looks for a little bit of consistency and take the puck to the other end of the ice. Time for play, and he sends out Patrice Bergeron to take the draw. Johnny Boychuk, Brad Marchand back to Boychuk. Once again, Louis Eriksson not in uniform tonight. out with a concussion indefinitely, and there's been no further statement from the Bruins. Eliash's drive save. Rask rebound Jágr with Bergeron on his back. And the Devils are appealing to the on-ice officials, saying that this went directly off Bergeron's stick, up and out of play. Now, if they don't say this is a deflection.
Well, I think that's saying it was Chara, actually, wasn't it? Chara going back to the top of the crease. The rebound comes out, and he's just trying to shovel this puck to the corner of the rink. Here's your drive by Elias. And there's Chara firing that puck.
Yep, you're absolutely right. I thought it was Jágr hitting Bergeron's stick, but it was Chara scooping it out. He's going to go. Unless they just didn't see it.
He dropped the ball in the exchange from taking it out of his glove, making the double play.
Boston penalty number 33, 2 minutes delay of game.
Sure looks like they get that call, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Which is what you want from your officials. They get together, the four of them. They discuss what everybody saw, and they make the right call. One more look at it. Elias with the drive. Again, this is how Adam Henrique scored. A rebound off Rask back to that slot area. Elias takes that drive. This one comes back to the slot area. Chara's in good position. He's making the right play. Just elevated the puck over the glass a little bit too high.
Elias rotating from the right point. The redirection by Jágr. Rask without the mask. And the play blown dead.
Andy Brown. Wasn't he the last goalie not to wear a mask in the NHL?
I don't know. Who's going to be the last guy not to wear a visor? Yeah, now that's been grandfathered in.
Yeah, the next Craig McTavish.
Yeah, exactly.
Get a look at that again, that high slot. A lot of teams really like this play, shots for points, because teams line up to get the shooting lanes. What's open is that high slot for the redirect. Even from that distance, a redirect can find the back of the net.
Seidenberg winds up, cranks it, and it bounces off the glass, up and over. So the face-off back in the Boston zone. Jelena not on the ice right now. Wade and Kelly come out for Boychuk and Krejci. What are they discussing right now on the ice? Seidenberg going over to talk to McQuaid.
Who's going to get the puck if it goes in the corner? You know, can you stand in Jágr's way if it goes into the corner of the rink, and I'll go get it on my forehand side?
There's Jágr with a huge reach, trying to go across the grade. McQuaid chips the puck back to Seidenberg. He quickly risks it all the way down the rink.
Nice tandem work there by McQuaid and Seidenberg. Non-verbal communication, and they get an easy clear.
About a 3-second difference between the penalty time and the game clock. Jágr all the way in, across the crease, nobody home. Elias taps back toward the point. Ryder stumbling. Jágr with a quick regroup. Ryder hadn't cleared the zone yet. And it's offside.
Well, Jágr still has that powerful gliding ability, if you want to call it that.
Swoop ability.
Yeah, you know, and he just carries that puck. He's got the long reach. You know he can protect the puck. We certainly saw that at the end of last year. But if you give him enough time and you give him enough space and you give him enough angle, he'll take advantage of it.
Johnny Boychuk airmailing in the length of the rink. Final minute of the second period. And here's Eric Jelena. The rookie sends it to Adam Henrique. Brunner in the corner, chips the backhand toward the back of the goal. Bernier on Campbell. Now Green, the defenseman, all the way down into the corner. Bernier mucking back to the goal. Bernier squirts it loose. It comes all the way back to Jelena. Jelena along the line to Green. Green moves down past the dot, throws it in front past Bernier. The backhand Brunner, and a save by Rask. It went in. That's a goal. Rask reaching back with the paddle hand to try to pull the puck back across the line, but you clearly could see it was in. 2 power play goals for New Jersey, and the Devils are hanging around.
Like Louis Eriksson, when he scored his, I believe his first goal as a Bruin was on a backhander one-timer, and Bruner's going to do the same thing here. Andy Green, he takes this puck from the right point. Campbell's trying to take away any kind of pass back, so Green takes it all the way to the dot, and now he realizes potential 2-on-1 in front of the net on Krug. Yeah, Bernier on the short side and Brunner on the far side. And this little one-timer backhand is going to squeeze between Rask and the near post. Rask gets some of it, but just not quite all of it. The overhead will show that puck across the goal line inside that far post, which became the near post on the backhand.
Second power play goal, 4th overall this season for Damian Brunner. Brunner signed in September with New Jersey after he had originally signed as a free agent with Detroit. This might be the best angle here. It sure looks like there's separation, but I don't know if that's going to be conclusive. From our angle with the naked eye, certainly looked as if there was separation between the puck and the line. That's a pretty good look of it there.
The play on the ice stand. The puck crossed the line. It's a good goal.
Yep.
Well, you can tell just by Tuukka's reaction. Yeah, he's looking at the puck. He's the closest one to it, even closer than the officials. And you can see the disgust. He picks the puck up, just airmails it back out towards the center dot, knowing it was a goal.
1 minute and 3 seconds of the 1:30 power play spent in the Boston zone. Lucic going hard into Bernier. There's a pileup back in the Boston goal. 10 seconds to go in the period. Jelena keeps it on the line, tries the quick wrist shot. McKinley blocks it. Here's Jelena, another chance. Loose in front. Carter shot. The Snow Angel from Rask, and it's underneath his legs with less than 3 seconds to go in the period. And the Bruins are playing with fire right now, having outplayed New Jersey for almost this entire game.
Well, you asked the question, maybe 7-8 minutes ago about what's happening on the ice right now. The Bruins taking their foot off the gas, and they said, yeah, they are. They're just kind of playing the game between the blue lines and no real tenacity to their attack or their puck possession. They had some chances, as did New Jersey, but really not much going on in terms of the Bruins putting this game away and wrestling control of it on a team that really has a lot of self-doubt right now. And once again, just like the Henry power play goal, the Brunner power play goal gives them instant life. That momentum pendulum swings when you're a team that's struggling to find points. It swings, and it swings in both directions awfully quick.
Well, Damian Brunner's power play goal comes just 28 seconds before the end of the second, so an emotionally pumped up team will return for the third against the Bruins, Dale. Boston Bruins Hockey on NESN is brought to you by TD Bank, America's most convenient bank. By Amica Insurance. By Toyota's official website for deals, buyatoyota.com. By the Massachusetts Health Connector. By your local New England Audi dealers. And by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts. Bruins have taken their foot off the snake. New Jersey will have a little bit of power play time left to try to tie this thing at the beginning of the third period. Moments ago, Andy Brickley with Bruins assistant Doug Jarvis.
Doug, you reestablished a 2-goal lead late in that first period on the net drive score by Milan Lucic. I'm curious to your assessment of your team's play in period number 2.
Well, I think they really spent a big part of the period in our zone. I thought one of their strengths of their team is their low work with their size and their puck strength, and I thought they worked us, especially down below the goal line. They were hard on us. We couldn't get possession back from them, and consequently spent a lot of time on our end. We got to get that puck moving and moving quicker from low to high and exit our zone.
And coming in tonight, you're looking at a New Jersey team, just the 1 win and 10 tries this year. I guess what was priority number one when you're playing a team like Jersey that may have some self-doubt right now?
Well, we wanted to come out like we did and establish a lead, and then and then go from there and hopefully extend the lead. Well, what we ended up doing through a couple power play goals against there now have let them back into the game. We have to take the momentum and take this game back in the third.
As a former centerman yourself, looking at that David Krejci line, of course, Lucic and Ginler as his wings, everybody in scoring streaks right now. But David Krejci himself, what makes him so special?
Well, I think is just his hockey sense and his awareness on the ice. When he has a puck, he's in complete control. He has great vision out there to make the plays that need to be made, and I think that's what makes him a great player.
Well, a chance for your 8th win in 10 games. Good luck in the third period.
Thanks, Andy.
Okay.
Getting set for the third period draw. Attacking zone time in the game, 17 minutes and 39 seconds for the Devils, and more than 10 minutes of it in the second period alone. And Brick, I'm going to have to check, and I can follow up on our Twitter accounts after the game, but I think that is the most time any team has spent in a Boston zone in any single period all season long. That's just not good enough, is it?
Yeah, and that's exactly what Dougie Jarvis was talking about. The big bodies, the puck protection, things that the Bruins generally do. San Jose was in the Bruin zone a lot, but things happened a lot quicker. They exited the zone a lot more frequently once the Bruins were able to chip the puck out. But New Jersey, more of that methodical, deep puck possession, protect it, cycle, use the points, throw it back down the wall. That's more their style of the game. And that's exactly what Dougie Jarvis was talking about. The Bruins need to be better in preventing that and not allowing Jersey that kind of game.
And doing this very thing, Iginla in a battle along the boards, and Seidenberg keeping it in at the point. There's Iginla backing in right from Krejci. What a save by Brodeur. He was in the right position, and he got the right arm on it as well. Jarome Iginla taking the game on his shoulders right now and saying, you want it at that end of the ice? We'll keep it there for you. And there he is again, whacking the puck in on Brodeur to get the clean change.
He wins a lot of battles. I know that's not a big play right there. He's just chipping that puck deep into the offensive zone to get the line change. But he wins a lot of battles of strength with stick strength on the puck.
The stick strength from Dino Zubras to deprive Jordan Caron of a clean play in the neutral zone. Here comes Zubras over the line, swings it all the way through to Zajac. Krug strong on his stick. Zidlitsky to Zajac in the corner. Kelly ties him up. Krug tries to find the puck. It slides into Rask, and he controls it. David Krejci with a chance, point blank.
Well, the forecheck, win the puck battles, get position, body position right there. Beautiful play by Iginla. That little spin move, he back into the puck, you knock Green away from it. Don't let him do what he wants to do. David Krejci has the right idea too. Elevate that puck from in tight, try to get it up top. He knows Brodeur is going to go down. He tries to get it up over the block, over the shoulder, but Brodeur gets just enough of it.
Gregory Campbell takes the Adam McQuaid feed and trickles through Larson's legs. Jelenon Paille go to the end boards. Campbell comes in hard against Larson. Larson off the end boards, and he picks up the garbage. Tosses it off glass past Seidenberg. He'll go back to retrieve. Olesh closing ground on Seidenberg. McQuaid keeps the puck moving through the corner. Paille, the short pass to Campbell, making himself available. He goes to the cross corner dump. Thornton coming in hard against Mark Fane. Fane around the boards. Paille lets the puck get out to center. Boychuk looks for a quick re-entry and drives it in. The Bruins responding in exactly the way that you discussed with Doug Jarvis. Now here's Jágr over the line to Henrique. Back to Jágr. The shot saved by Rask. Elias trying to work the puck past Paille, but Paille wins the puck battle. Rick, we've heard you say it to youth sports groups and to junior hockey players. You say, what's the most important thing in the game? And they start trying to get philosophical with you, and you say, the puck! The puck is the most important thing in the game. Win the puck, and the Bruins are doing that in the third. Here's Bergeron looking through to Riley Smith, who submarines on Brodeur. Not intentionally, just lost an edge. New Jersey will turn it into transition. Boychuk with the tap ahead. Smith still hasn't cleared the zone. Volchenkov swoops back.
Yeah, well, on the second power play unit, on the first power play by Boston, or maybe the second power play by Boston, have they had two?
They have.
Yeah. Smith lost an edge going back for the puck. Remember that? And then it was a wraparound chance from Gianton. Smith went right off the ice to get his skates attended to. Well, he may have another skate issue because he ended up in the goal on that net drive on the pass attempt to Bergeron.
Tuukka Rask playing with a skater's stick because his stick snapped right where the paddle meets the shaft. Lucic pivots to Krejci. He's got Iginla left. The puck for once won't cooperate with David Krejci. Lucic takes it out on Jelenon, wins the puck in the corner to the dot to Iginla, but the puck explodes up on it. Damian Brunner, quick couple of steps and knifing through Kelly. The quick pivot on Carter. Down the boards, Jelenon indirect off the end boards. Larson, Chara depriving Steven Gianta of a free pass to the neutral zone. Eric Jelenon drives it. Zubras the deflection up on Rask, still playing with a skater's stick.
Well, the Bruins have scored a number of goals not only turning defense into offense, but what they're able to accomplish in center ice. Protect the puck. Good pickup by Marchand in the skates. Little delay by Bergeron. That allows Riley Smith the time to drive off that far post. Bergeron took a good look. That subtle little drop on the right shoulder as if he might let that wrist shot go and then slide the puck just off that far post.
The manufacturers are coming out with these new blades that the equipment staff can actually change out the blade. Detachable blade, pre-sharpened. They can go right on. Not sure if Smith wears that brand or style of skate. But onward technology marches. I would imagine that back in the day when you were playing, if you got your skate nicked, did you have to take the thing off and the guy runs down the hall to sharpen it?
And for most of the career, things started to change at the very end with the technology. But yes, you hated any kind of skate issues because you knew you were going to lose a lot of time off the clock, no matter how good the trainers were.
Bergeron and Zubris on the face-off now. Bruins led 2-0 before New Jersey got on the board. A couple of power play goals, and the Devils are scrapping, looking for their first road win of the year. Zubris can't get past Bergeron. Kelly goes out, slides right into Fane. Seidenberg holding arms up as if to say he did not foul Zubris. Zajac protects the puck back to Green, slings it cross corners. Zubris, the tap. Bergeron reads it, so no, the puck never gets through. Kelly chops it out, and that'll go for icing as Andy Green, no, they waved it off. He said the puck did not have enough speed, so on they go. Fane rips it into the zone, and it deflects up and out. The face-off will be on the Spoke B at center ice.
Make this year's holiday party unforgettable by hosting it at a Bruins game. Holiday suite rental packages are now available, include food and beverage, a visit from Blades, or the Bruins Ice Girls, and more. To book your holiday suite now, call 617-624-1847 or visit bostonbruins.com.
Andy Brickley did it.
Absolutely. Take advantage. Great opportunities to be had. I'm enjoying one tonight.
So are Michaela and about, I don't know, 20 of her friends or so. There are a whole pile of them. Here's Sean Thornton firing it low angle, and Brodeur hugs the post.
You know, we were talking about skates a moment ago, and I remember playing in a playoff game one time, and I had some, injuries with my ankle, some ligament issues, and a lot of swelling, but you needed to play. It's playoff time.
Right.
And I wore one Bauer and one Lang, because the Lang skate was a lot bigger and a lot roomier in the boot.
Lang, of course, the famed ski boot manufacturer that no longer makes skates. Didn't those things explode every once in a while? They made them out of those ski boot shells.
Yeah, when I got going through the neutral zone, that's when they exploded.
McQuaid to Chara. Tees it up off Yager. Chara interferes with Yager, and he's going to go. Straight to the box. He knew it. Well, the power play has been the weapon for New Jersey tonight.
Well, the Bruins get puck possession back to the point. Chara's trying to find a seam beyond Yager, and Yager makes the shot block, and now he's at the advantage to get around Chara, and the two big bodies collide because Chara goes out of his way, out of his line to make contact. There's your interference.
Chara was in the box the last time that New Jersey scored. Zajac gets tossed out of the faceoff. It's Elias, Yager, Ryder, Zidlinski, and Zajac.
That's good personnel.
Boston penalty number
Plenty of talent. Boychuk on the clear. Of course, Chara, as he has annually since joining the Bruins, leads the team in shorthanded time on ice per game. The Bruins exceptionally deep in penalty-killing forwards, as well as having solid D. And here's Brad Marchand beating Bergeron. He's got a shorthanded bid against Zajac. Marchand the trailer. Bergeron misses over the glove side. Tries to track down Yager. Yager protects the puck. Here's Elias. Elias across the Ryder. Tries to sweep the one-timer, but Boychuk down to the block. End-to-end they go. Short-handed the Bruins. Marchand and Bergeron And a little bit of fatigue here at the end of a tough penalty-killing shift, and they're offside.
The Bruins already with some short-handed goals to their credit this year. 2 opening night, in fact. One of them was Bergeron on a somewhat similar play where he has that little curl and drag. This time he took a little peek over his right shoulder. Love that. He sells the possibility of a drop pass back to Marchand, and that allows him to get inside position on Zajac, and he tried to sneak it short side over the glove under the bar and just missed.
Here's Eric Gelinas. He of the exceptional release. Dumps it off the boards. Bernier chasing. McQuaid taps over to Iginla. And Kelly sends it all the way down. And Brodeur sends it all the way back. Gelinas spoons the puck forward. McQuaid hammers it off the board.
And that was going to be icing on the Devils. That initial cross-corner dump by Gelinas. But it was that skates at the dot because McQuaid got to the puck first.
Campbell hits Henrique. Krug turns, bounces it off the boards past Gelinas' reach. Campbell on a fishing expedition, and Brodeur saucers the pass to Green. Zidlitsky gains the middle of the line, pulls up. Brodeur taps back to Green. Gets it from Henrique and gives it back. Henrique closes to the dot. The shot. Boychuk with the block. That one stung a little bit. Boychuk cracked a shin guard earlier this season blocking a shot. Zidlitsky and Paille on the far side. Seidenberg to the corner. Seidenberg takes it away from Zidlitsky. Paille whips the puck cross zone. Campbell has plenty of time and space. Tees it up, slaps it out to center, breaks his stick in the process. Chara's out of the box, and New Jersey didn't get a shot on goal during its power play. Loktionov into Krejci's skates. Loktionov skating most of his shifts between Jágr and Elias has had a very quiet night. Just 27 seconds in the attacking zone on the 2-minute power play for New Jersey. The Bruins did an excellent job depriving the Devils of chances.
Yeah, and they had the better chance. They had the best chance on a little mini breakaway by Bergeron.
Dougie Hamilton in close quarters manages the puck up the wall to Lucic. Here comes Krejci working against Larson, a young defenseman. Lucic into the slot, muscles it all the way through. And here's a break for Blutter, who's pretty quick. Chara with the huge stride to get back in the play, and he wipes out Blutter. Takes him to the end boards. That's the stuff in which Norris trophies are made. Here's Volchenkov firing it through the slot. Lucic out to the line, but not out of the zone. Carter snaps the puck cross ice. Hamilton to Chara, draws the forechecker out to Lucic to Krejci with pressure coming. Steven Gianta keeping the puck at the line and inside the Boston end. McGinley muscling Volchenkov, and Volchenkov's a pretty strong guy.
And big.
Chara up to the attacking line. Bergeron redirects to the end boards and goes in hard against Zidlitsky and wins the puck. Riley Smith trying to A-frame against Volchenkov. The puck pops up over both of them. Volchenkov finds it up to the line. Marchand, quick stick to keep it in the zone for a moment. Ryan Carter gives it back to Zidlitsky. The puck explodes over his stick and he ices it. The Geico road ahead. Bruins completing 3 games in 4 days, and they'll get a couple of days off before traveling to Pittsburgh. That's a tasty matchup that the Peacock coaches. Anaheim here on Thursday, Halloween night. And we'll have that one for you on NESN and then travel to the island. One of the final times as the Islanders get set to move to Brooklyn next season. Bergeron tosses it off a stanchion. It comes to the circle, but Smith couldn't hit the brakes quickly enough. Michael Ryder working the off wing. Marchand gives him a couple of whacks and enforces an offside. 10:19 to go in the game. The Bruins up by 1, and Zdeno Chara making sure it stays that way. Camp presented by Amica Insurance. Great service, great coverage, and a great price for auto, home, or life insurance.
Well, the David Krejci line all over the score sheet again tonight. Right off a face-off win in the defensive zone. Jarome Iginla going to do his job. Fight through that one-on-one coverage at the hash mark. Get to the wall. This is a set breakout. And here's the key. You got 1, 2, 3 Devil forwards caught in deep. And Milan Lucic able to sprint the length of the ice from the defensive zone with a great net drive off that far post. The Bruins create a 3-on-2 off a face-off win. Everybody doing their job, their assignment. And that's the difference in the hockey game right now with the Bruins leading 3-2.
The Devils have gotten the Bruins' attention, and they have responded with a strong first half of the third period. Mark Fane, the through-the-legs pass to Andy Green now. Rostislav Olesh out into the neutral zone. McQuaid bats it down. The puck tumbling around at the Boston line. Kelly wins another puck battle. McQuaid back to Krug. Saucers the bouncer through. It won't sit for Kelly. Henrique ahead for Olesh in the shoulder right to the chest as McQuaid steps into a nice body check. All the way around, Loktionov quickly off the bench. The backhand hard off the end boards. Olesh takes it through traffic. Runs into a hard Krug check who got the body low. Zhelinov quick release on the drive and sprays off a couple of skates. McQuaid chips past Krug. Zhelinov throws the shoulder into Caron, but there's Krug on the next layer. He goes long indirect, and that billiard shot's going to miss the hole. It'll be icing.
Well, ideally, the Bruins get a little something in terms of production from someone outside of the Krejci line right now. Obviously, coming in tonight, they were riding a hot hand, and again tonight, all over the score sheet. But the Bruins going to need a little bit more in terms of balanced scoring in this game tonight. I mean, only the 2 goals in that 2-1 win over San Jose, both coming from the Krejci line. But prior to that, the 5-0 win over Tampa, the balanced attack. The 5-2 win over Buffalo, pretty balanced attack. They need some production from another line tonight.
Elias, the quick release, and a save by Tuukka Rask. Marchand off the stick of Jágr. Elias knocks it down, tried to get it to Loktionov on the boards, but Marchand flicks it out. Bergeron in hard on Zidlitsky, who coughs up the puck. Riley Smith whacks it out of the air, but it was above shoulder height. And the faceoff coming outside the New Jersey line when the game resumes. Gents, thank you. And I'm sure most of you viewers saw Brad Marchand and Adam Henrique saying, hey, how was your summer? I spent a lot of time poking around. Hamilton D to Seidenberg, goes up the wall past Riley Smith all the way. Oh, funny ball's right in front of Brodeur. They rarely get past him when he leaves the crease to play the puck. With the puck on edge, Brodeur sweeps it back to his own goal. Bergeron anticipating, getting the puck to Marchand. Marchand can't wiggle it away. Zajac gets it to center ice. Hamilton up into Marchand's body. He gains the line. Bergeron's quick shot is saved by Brodeur off the glass. Zajac dumps the puck in deep. Brunner going after it. Rask scrapes it around through the corner. Iginla, clever short pass for Krejci, but a good read from Zhelinov. Lets one rip from 70 feet. Rask angles it to the glass. Brunner in the corner. Seidenberg gives him a slam, and Krejci's the next layer to take the puck. David Krejci, the quick move around Gianta to get the puck to Hamilton. D to Seidenberg. The Bruins try to switch sides and find the attack. Indirect pass does not connect with Lucic, and it's icing.
Take your game viewing experience to a whole new level with Garden Great's Suite Rental Package. Watch the game with the Bruins legend and score seating for up to 24 guests, all-inclusive food and beverage, never before offered behind-the-scenes access, and more. Visit bostonbruins.com/Garden Greats or call 617-624-1-VIP.
Krejci and Zajac on an important Boston zone faceoff with less than 8 minutes to go in the game. New Jersey hanging around, giving itself a chance. The Devils 0-5-2 on the road so far this season. Peter DeBoer saw his club lose the services of Ilya Kovalchuk, who announced his retirement and then signed an incredibly lucrative deal in Russia. Didn't really surprise that many people who've been around the NHL, Brick. You know, we always got the feeling, speaking to Kovalchuk, that there was something missing, that he just wasn't totally comfortable in North America. I mean, you know, in fairness, I wouldn't be comfortable in Russia. I wouldn't. The food's different, the customs are different, the language is different, the people are different, the culture is different. No matter how big a star you might be at work, you still got to live at home, right?
Well, some would say your language is different here.
People aren't comfortable with me, but I can live with that, yeah.
No, I hear what you're saying. And more importantly, as a forward, he played like 24 minutes a game. I mean, he was involved in every situation. And they relied on him a tremendous amount. And then you had David Clarkson as a minus, meaning no longer with the club.
Yep. Elias takes the long indirect pass from Jelena, spins off the Boychuk hit. Here's Jágr in close support. Chara gives him a bump. Elias stabs at the puck. Jágr getting the space in front of the Zamboni Jaws. Chara wins it between Jágr and Elias. Zajac, far side. Chris Kelly ties him up. Jágr there to fish it out of the skates. Boychuk chops the puck loose. Jordan Caron with speed toward the red line. Lucic cuts off the rush. He's going to go out for fresh legs. Caron pressuring the puck as Kelly comes over the boards along with Soderberg. Andy Green with under 7 minutes to go. New Jersey looking for the tying goal. Bruins took the lead just under 8 minutes into this game and have not surrendered it yet. Olesh trying to A-frame, and Kelly wins that physical battle. Chara around the boards, but not out. The backup drive. Brunner blasting it into some bodies. Let's go Bruins, the chant. Bergeron with a great hands to steal fresh off the bench. Gets it over to Caron, the wiggler in on Brodeur. Bergeron hard to the corner against Larson. Jelena pokes it to Larson up the wall. Larson bounces the puck behind McQuaid, but he recovers as New Jersey makes a quick change. Bergeron drives the puck in deep. It goes around the boards. Marchand past the dot, but Henrique takes it. Marchand swats the stick pretty hard. Henrique trickles it out through center. Krug takes it after McQuaid seals off Jágr. Here's Marchand charging toward the line. Drops to Bergeron. The pass behind Smith. He's got Krug nearby. Smith through the corner. Marchand a little stick lift to keep the puck alive as he worked on Green. McQuaid across the zone. Nobody home. Bernier has Ryder out ahead. Smith with back pressure. And Bernier can't make anything out of the rush.
McQuaid thought he had Smith in the high slot, but that play wasn't there. What was open was Seidenberg on the opposite side of the ice.
Puck rolling. Krejci Ginla to Lucic. Saved by Brodeur. His save of the night. There's a stick loose. It belongs to Steven Gianta. He finds it, but not before Krejci can get the puck to Lucic. To Hamilton. Sweeps it down low for Ginla. A little dangle and a move around Larson, but Larson gets help from his deep pair, Jelena, and they clear the zone. Here's Gianta up the right wing boards against Seidenberg. Tosses it in front, and it bounces all the way through as Ryan Carter couldn't bat the deflection out of the air. Lucic goes end-to-end with the puck. Drops to Ginla into the slot looking for Krejci, and Gianta wants another transition out of it. Gianta running out of gas. Short of the red line, and it's ruled offside. The face-off back in center ice with 4:42 to go when this game resumes.
You just got to love Milan Lucic's game right now, playing all three zones, both ends of the ice. It's a pretty good scoring chance here after Krejci and Ginla team up. But then in transition, just the effort on the back check, shoulder to shoulder, stride for stride to get back on Carter to play good defense and not prevent or not allow a 2-on-1 for New Jersey at a critical time.
Yeah, and Carter had a pretty good chance to finish if not for Lucic. Six goals in the abbreviated season last year for Ryan Carter. Best he's done in his career.
And Claude Julien really shortening his bench here in the third period, Jack. Campbell and Paille and Thornton really not getting much time, 2 or 3 shifts. And now Paille on the ice with Kelly and Caron on this unit.
Green, the wrist shot, tipped by Jágr, it goes wide. Chara whacks it away with a monster reach. Boychuk and Chara in the corner. The puck squirts past Kelly. Paille showing his speed to get to the puck, and that's part of the reason he's out there. Jágr wreaks a little bit of havoc. Paille knocks the hot puck down in the corner. Chara, the soft touch to Boychuk. Back to the captain. Puck squirts away. Chara muscles it out through the neutral zone.
Now, Bruins need cleaner breakouts. Go back to what was working for them early in the hockey game. If they go to D to D, that weak side winger, nice and low, has been open most of the night.
We get a stoppage. Tonight's Audi Performance Play brought to you by your local New England Audi dealers. Experience Audi Quattro all-wheel drive today.
Well, we go back to the power play goal by Krug, originally credited to Milan Lucic, but it's Torrey Krug's goal. Just that subtle little mobility, the quick move to move that puck a little bit more to his right as he moves laterally to his right in order to create some kind of lane. And it wasn't a clean lane because the replay shows you it was deflected a little bit by Adam Henrique out high, but still had enough on it and enough eyes to get past Brodeur.
Every time the discussion comes around to make the goals bigger, you show a guy like Torrey Krug or even Jonas Enroth on how you can change the angle, get creative, do it a different way.
Yeah, and streamline the goalie's equipment as they're doing this year. Don't make the nets bigger, make the equipment smaller.
Yeah, I got no problem with making the equipment smaller, but that's going to be 4x6 until they...
Well, that's the way it should be.
If you're just hopping over from the World Series, it's late third period, it's winning time, and the Bruins look as if they might be on penalty kill coming up here. And they have had a really tough time when New Jersey has had the man advantage. Damian Brunner getting up slowly after a pretty tough collision and a high stick being ruled against Boston.
I think they're going to be shorthanded for the rest of the game. Some blood on the ice down there. There's the stick that comes up quick by Krug, right into the face of Brunner, underneath the visor. Definitely an injury here, and I expect this to be 4 minutes.
Well, the rest of the game would mean Boston was killing it off, and they're inspecting for chiclets and other bodily debris that may be coming off of Damian Brunner.
Now, the clock initially put up 2, but now they put up 4.
Yeah, that should be. High stick causing injury, not necessarily blood, although you often see that. Bruins shorthanded 6 times tonight, as this will go into the books as 2 separate penalties against Torrey Krug.
Well, the Bruins got their work cut out for them right now. Their penalty killing's been strong all season, but they're up against it right now. 3:15 in regulation, 4 minutes of penalty time on the board. This game, if the Bruins are going to win 3-2, they're going to finish it shorthanded.
Boychuk drops Jágr as he was trying to jump into the circle before the draw. Penalty killing forwards are Chris Kelly and Patrice Bergeron. Chara and Boychuk against Zajac, who's taking the draw. Ryder, Jágr, Elias, and Zidlitsky. It's a rugby scrum for the puck. Here's Elias, the tip and a save by Rask. A marvelous left shoulder save by Tuukka Rask on a redirection from about 6 feet away from him.
And the front of the net was a little bit vulnerable because Zdeno Chara stepped around the scrum to try to get to the loose puck, but Jersey got it back to the point in time.
Zidlitsky to Elias, flying all the way through. Saved by Rask. Who's the best penalty killer? Elias in the right wing corner, brings it around the perimeter to Jaromir Jágr. To Elias through the seam to Ryder, to Zidlitsky. Michael Ryder, he had the great release and the ability to find the seam. Zajac stacked up in front of Boychuk in front, gets the puck, it comes off of his leg to Ryder. The slap pass to Zidlitsky, a very crafty power play guy who came into the game leading New Jersey in points. Ryder fakes the shot. Elias holds the puck past the dot. Chara goes all the way to the wall with him. Ryder out top. The drive from Zidlitsky and a save by Tuukka Rask. 2:11 to go in the game.
A good patience by the Bruins penalty killers. You want to be aggressive when you can, and they couldn't be in this situation. Jersey with puck possession with their heads up in that umbrella formation or high triangle, however you want to describe it. Tuukka Rask has to track the puck. The first one was all that traffic when Chara stepped outside. The second was Elias coming off that left wing when he was able to step around the Bruins penalty killers. In the third one,
Chelina with the bomb and a glove save by Tuukka Rask. Eric Chelina's ticket to the National Hockey League was his ability to use that marvelous hand-eye coordination and his weight transfer and get hard shots on goal, and man, has he delivered.
and the third one was on the one-timer by Zidlitsky, and here's the fourth one, the one-timer by Chelina. Tuukka Rask getting a good look at it, getting out around some of that traffic to get a good view.
Henrique to Chelina. His blast trickles through off the deflection, and McQuaid is just throwing thunderous hits right around the Boston goal.
And Bernier trying to get to the front of the net, and McQuaid doing his job, protecting his goal, and not allowing second or third opportunities, even on pucks that are deflected. Face-off win by Henrique. You know they're telling Chelina shoot the puck at every opportunity. That hit into the Bergeron Henrique crowd. Rask was able to track it again.
McQuaid's a big boy, but he gives up 24 pounds to Bernier in the exchange. Bernier listed at 220. Elias slides the puck to Jágr. Jágr, the dart across the zone. Zidlicky off Boychuk's legs. Elias down the boards. Boychuk gets knocked down. Bergeron sails it up and out. Are the Bruins going to be 2 men down?
Yep.
And Patrice Bergeron, ranked second among Bruins forwards in shorthanded time on ice per game, trailing only Chris Kelly, goes to the box for the last $1:49 of the game. It'll be 5-on-3.
Well, Jersey doesn't have their timeout left, as we got to look at the replay. Bergeron doing exactly what he should do, rotate down when Boychuk forces along the wall, but his attempt to go off the glass and out just carries a little too high. New Jersey already using their timeout back in the first period when they got down 2-0. And this is where you, as the Bruins coaching staff, have a timeout in your pocket, but do you want to use it?
Boston penalty number
Off the
37.
face-off, Kelly trying to rip through the traffic, but he can't. Zidlicky and Elias out high. Ryder down low with Zajac in the slot. Jágr at the far post. Amazing amount of talent out here. Chara gets a piece of the puck and it tumbles past Elias with a puck and a half to go. Elias. Now it's going to be 6-on-3 as Brodeur goes to the bench. The net empty for New Jersey. Elias cross ice off the corner boards. It's Ryder bringing it back to Zidlicky. Zidlicky holds. 1:10 to go. The crowd up. Zidlicky scores! Mark Zidlicky with his first goal in 26 games. New Jersey down 2 at 1 point has scored 3 power play goals to tie it with 1:08 to go.
Just a simple little exchange out high. The pull of Marty Brodeur to get a 6th player on the ice. That allows you to put one guy in front of the net and then really use a power eye. Someone in the slot also trying to get in the shooting lane and disrupt the goaltender. Bernier's in front of the net. Zidlicky can pound it. We talked about the weapons, the individual skill set on the guys that make up the power play for New Jersey. And you're going to give up some shots, especially in a 6-on-3. And Zidlicky takes it upon himself to get in between the blue line and the tops of the circles, and he rips one with a good screen high to the blocker side. That shot is intended to score. That's not intended for a rebound or a redirect. That's my shot that's going to beat you with a screen.
Oh, by the way, New Jersey is still on the power play, right? Because one of Krug's penalties remains. One had just expired. Bergeron comes out. So Krug still in the box. Bergeron, Marchand, Chara, and Boychuk out for the center draw. And no doubt Brodeur will go. Well, no, there is quite a bit of doubt because it's tied and New Jersey will get a point if they can hang on for another 65 seconds.
1 minute remaining.
They're looking at it as a chance to get a win in regulation.
Yep, you
New
bet.
Jersey power play goal scored by number 2, Mark Zidlicky. Assisted by
Chara
number 26,
rides it
Michael
around through the
Ryder.
corner. Shellenov pulls it off on the
And number 17,
backhand.
Michael Ryder. Front of the goal.
Jágr in front. Here's Green. He scores! Turnabout is fair play. And the Bruins, who had a miraculous last-second comeback only 2 nights ago, are looking at blowing a 2-goal lead and losing in the last minute to New Jersey.
Well, you mentioned it a number of times tonight, the Bruins playing with fire. Only getting production from one line, not able to take control of the game when it was 3-1. They can't clear their zone. Chara can't get enough on it from behind the net. They try to be aggressive out high, but when you do that, there's going to be some breakdowns. And Brunner, who just drifts into the slot on this little exchange, couldn't tell if he was trying to shoot that puck. Yeah, I want to give him credit, but I think he's trying to shoot that puck. Absolutely. Just heels it. And good fortune, it just goes right to Andy Green, creeping down from that left point. Now Rask has to commit to the shot. Brunner's trying to shoot the puck. Rask is outside the top of the crease, taking away the net.
Timeout.
And then misfire by Brunner goes right to Green. And he's able to have the whole blocker side of the net to bury that puck.
A brick coming into tonight. The Bruins had allowed 3 power play goals on the season. They've given up 4 in this game. New Jersey now has scored 8 power play goals in its last 5.
Well, the Bruins had a 2-0 lead. Yeah, there were a couple of good bounces on a couple of ugly goals against Marty Brodeur, but then they give up the power play goal on the rebound on the drive from Shelena by Henrique. That cut it to 2-1. A bit of an ugly goal by New Jersey themselves. A one-timer back in by Bruner that squeezes through Rask. And now late in the third period, the Bruins in serious penalty trouble. The double mine and a Krug. And then the clearing over the glass by Bergeron put him in a 5-on-3 situation. They get aggressive, does New Jersey. They pull Marty Brodeur. Zidlicki tees one up for a bomb through a screen with Bernier in front of the net. And then a good bounce.
Rask already out of the goal for the centered out faceoff. And we're in the final 35 seconds. The Bruins desperate to try to pull off a victory after holding a 2-goal lead in this game and blowing it. Lucic to the dot to Iginla. Lucic gets it back to Krug. Trickles it down the boards. Lucic gives it away to Elias. And Elias flicks it all the way to the Boston zone. Last chance for the Bruins. Patrice Bergeron leaves it behind for Torrey Krug in the final 10 seconds. Up ahead to David Krejci, who scored the miracle goal with 8/10 to go 2 nights ago. Lucic to Krejci in front. Henrique, no. Krug shot blocked. And the siren sounds. The New Jersey Devils have their first road win of the year. And an astonishing collapse by the Bruins. 4-3 the final.
You can win some nights with just one line being productive, this not being one of them. The Bruins need to get a little bit more in terms of offense and offensive pressure for some other lines outside the David Krejci line. But this was a game they should have taken control of when they had the late first period goal by Lucic. The second period went a long way to the Bruins, allowing New Jersey to stay in this hockey game. And then their penalty killing could not handle the New Jersey power play at winning time.
The DCU save of the game brought to you by Digital Federal Credit Union. What can DCU save you? It was 3-2. New Jersey trying to get back in, and Milan Lucic getting the setup from Jerome McGinley, who had a 3-point night. And Martin Brodeur makes the stop on Lucic from the slot. Nobody saw this one coming until the wheels fell off the wagon in the late third period, Dale.